Check. Good evening, one and all, and requesting you all to please be seated as our show will begin very shortly. Thank you all once again for being here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for being here. Request you all to please be seated as our show begins in a few minutes.
important mechanism for the way the British Council can work with young people, often from disadvantaged backgrounds, to help develop their English language proficiency, which ultimately should give them a better opportunity of getting a better job.
The most valuable thing Teach India teaches the learners is to become confident in speaking in English.
My name is Saiful. I stay in Gandhinagar, East Delhi. I'm commerce graduate from Delhi University and I'm currently working with Domino's Pizza as restaurant manager. Teach India has organized job fairs. Our teachers help us how to prepare for the interview, how to answer the questions, and there was a lot of companies and I've given interviews and I was selected in 2 companies and I joined one.
Thank you, teacher.
The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Aristotle. And here's what you don't know. The digital world as we know it emits carbon, a whole lot of it. An average website or software emits enough carbon to run a car for 40 kilometers. A casual scroll emits enough CO2 for 20 trees. A single click releases enough carbon comparable to watching TV for 21 hours. While convenience and digital nativity skyrocket, so do carbon emissions at an alarming rate. It's time to take a conscious decision and make a conscious impact with Enterprise Conscious Code. What is Enterprise Conscious Code? The only way to make a significant impact on our daily lives by precisely measuring the energy impact of websites and software, adopting energy optimizing coding standards, and choosing green UX designs that are accessible and inclusive. It's a code for people, planet, and profit. Enterprise Conscious Code. Making an impact that matters.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and it is a privilege to be here. And thank you all so much for turning up, and that too on time. Also, congratulations on navigating the world's busiest lobby and finding this room. Congratulations once again to each and every one of you. 3 months into the year, and it's March. Yes, it is that time of the year where we are nearing the financial end. The kids have their board exams, and thanks to climate change, we don't even know whether summer is coming or going, and deadlines are looming. Speaking of deadlines, you do realize that it's the Ides of March today, not March 14th, not March 16th, but March 15th, the day that ancient Romans considered a deadline for settling debts. So I'd humbly request you all to watch your backs, not because I'm telling you to worry about any possible backstabbing, but to prepare for some serious rounds of well-deserved backslapping at this year's ET Awards for Corporate Excellence. And just to ensure there isn't any scope for anything outward to happen, even though this room is filled with the greatest crisis managers in the world, we've gone to crazy lengths to ensure that nothing possibly could go wrong. So on this Ides of March, our Security Council decided to completely even remove a Caesar salad from the menu. That's how focused we are, sir. I'm Saris Saukar, your host for tonight, and some of you must be getting a slight sense of strange deja vu, seeing me here again. Well, they wanted, what happened was, thanks to Google Gemini getting into trouble of late, ET decided not to replace me with the AI version of myself. It's good, therefore, to be back here at the ET Awards, or as we all have informally been calling this amongst ourselves, the post-pre-wedding event. We've seen you all just a couple of days ago. So it's wonderful to have you all here. You know how Sundar Pichai had put Gemini back in the kennel after it cooked up some pretty dodgy images of impossible and slightly improper things, like black Nazi soldiers, African-American founding fathers of America. So basically what they've done is that having me back here at this event ensures that there won't be any real-world glitches whatsoever. There won't be any silly things tonight, ladies and gentlemen, like environment-friendly oil companies, work-life balance in Infosys, undervalued tech stocks, and overvalued small-cap stocks and IPOs. Tonight, we're keeping it real. And talking about keeping it real in 2024, as you may have heard or may not, depends on where you are staying. If you're in South Mumbai, South Delhi, or Bengaluru, it's election year here in India and in America, and in that island state called Britain, whose Prime Minister recently said, and I quote, "When groups claim that Britain is and has been on the wrong side of history, we should reject it and reject it again." You may laugh now. We'll take a few shots of you laughing. We'll use it for everything in the show. Thank you. You're a gracious, lovely audience. Thank you. That's it. We got it. Now you can walk around, lose interest in me anytime you want. But it's also interesting, it's also election day in Russia starting today. We here at ET know how important you all are. You all are very busy people, which is why we have exclusive insight into the results already. Putin will win 124.7% of the votes. There you go. No tension now. Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, in good news now, tonight, the Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will be joining us on stage today from their busy schedule in Delhi. And a huge round of applause also to our wonderful partner, Deloitte, and a big thank you. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Thank you. I would also encourage you all here to please tweet. Sorry, did I say tweet? Please X. Please X about tonight's ceremony using the hashtag ET Awards. And without further ado, I would like to now invite on stage Mr. Satyan Gajwani, Vice Chairman, Times Internet, on stage to deliver the welcome address.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's my privilege to welcome you to the biggest annual event of corporate India, the Economic Times Awards for Corporate Excellence. Today, we mark 25 years since the founding of the ET Awards. Way back in 1998, when we launched this endeavor to celebrate the best of Indian business, India was what they referred to as an economy with promise. The Sensex hovered around 4,000 points. I'm sure that many of you in the room today were present with us 25 years ago as well. Of course, a lot of us are relatively new here, including myself. But what a remarkable quarter century this has been for our country. Today, we're at the cusp of being the third biggest economy after the US and China. And as for the Sensex, from 4,000 25 years ago, it's grown more than 18 times, about to touch 75,000. India is an eternal nation, and in that sense, 25 years of history is just a blip. But as Lenin wrote, there are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. The last quarter century has been transformational for India. And today, we're here to celebrate the spirit of entrepreneurship that has made this magic happen. The magic that is making us grow at 8% when the rest of the world is firmly in the slow lane. I could give you a number of data points to illustrate what I mean, but as readers of the Economic Times, I know that you're well served with relevant information every day, and so I'll spare you the repetition. But earlier today, for fun, I sat with a copy of the Economic Times from 1998, and it's inspiring to see how much we've progressed. In the newspaper the day after the Economic Times Awards in 1998, there was a story that was headlined, "Households Not Keen on Taking Stock," which cited a survey of 3,000 households, where at all different income brackets, more households wanted to sell their stock than buy stock in the equity markets. And amongst non-shareholders, only 19% expressed an interest in investing at all in the stock market. It's amazing to see how far we've come. Today, public markets are seeing record participation amongst retail investors across all income levels, and retail investors are becoming savvier and more discerning about their options. And even in our private markets, equity as a form of compensation is trusted, valued, and in many cases expected for the most competitive job opportunities. Equity participation is just one lens, but it's really amazing to see how much we've changed in such a short period of time. I'm quite sure that if we went back 25 years and had the AI simulation engines that we have today, none of them would have been able to predict what India has become. The confident, bold, ambitious, and unafraid nation that's becoming a leading global force. Speaking of simulations, we are the civilization that gave the world the concept of Maya, so it should come as no surprise that we are taking to AI with such gusto. Today, our global Indians are leading Wall Street and Silicon Valley, and it's a testament to the genius of our forefathers who put education above every other consideration. At home, our billionaires are getting younger and younger as the startup culture takes hold. And most of all, the best and brightest of India no longer feel compelled to go beyond our borders for professional growth, seeing the potential to make a real dent and impact here at home. We're also much more multifaceted today as India Inc. In the last century, India was known for its strengths in certain core areas. But today, we have a finger in every pie and in every part of the world. Manufacturing, once thought to be a game India lost, is taking promising roots through the Make in India mantra. We're the new Germany, but we're also the new Vietnam. So friends, let's raise a toast to this glorious story that is writing itself as we speak. And more importantly, that you, as the leaders of corporate India, are writing as we speak. It's a privilege to be living through this era of change. And as we celebrate the stunning successes and contributions of tonight's award winners, let's also renew our vows towards inclusive growth, towards diversity, and towards more conscious ways of living and giving. Welcome everybody to the Economic Times Awards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Satyan. The ET Awards, like ET itself, is about recognizing that we are here today in the pink of health, economically and geopolitically, creatively and environmentally. And it gives me great pleasure to call upon stage founder, Times Evoke and ET Evoke, Mrs. Meera Jain, to share her thoughts and so many wonderful keynotes. So ma'am, over to you. Round of applause, please.
Our planet is spiraling towards a disaster unparalleled as any other. More than 500 species of land animals are on the brink of extinction and are likely to be lost within 20 years. This is just the tip of a fast melting iceberg. Times Evoke and ET Evoke focused on these core environmental issues, the challenges we face, and the path forward to rectify our mistakes. As we grew, the world's leading names in global sciences, renowned social analysts, academics, and various committed individuals from all over the world enriched us with their vast knowledge of natural sciences. The Evoke book, To Nature with Love, consists of premium selections from our Times of India and Economic Times editions. Evoke, for there is no greater story on earth.
One trillion animals disappear from our planet each year. 80 billion livestock are farmed for food. 2 million species face extinction today. 150 million are still taken in poaching and trophy hunting. It's all game. 150,000 animals perish every minute. These numbers are not valuations of companies. They are an anthology of loss. These are ledgers of lives precipitously vanishing from Earth. These are also reflections of how we have come to view the world of animals through the lens of a mind-numbing commodification. Indeed, we think of the lives lost each year as 360 million tons consumed worldwide. My keynote today is to unlock your conscience. We are not waiting for the 6th extinction. We are already in the 6th extinction. As apex predator, we have reshaped the world according to our own image, but at the cost of our fellow sentient beings and our home planet. And our actions bear a huge price, way beyond our own narrow anthropocentric plans. On last count, humanity has wiped out 60% of the world's wildlife since 1970. Thanks to Alfred Nobel's gunpowder. So much for the Nobel Prize. But humanity can also protect our fellow animals, our common home and hearth, Earth, which we share as kin when we say Vasudev Kutumb. The expansive Kutumb cannot be confined to Homo sapiens alone. Now for a personal story. I recently visited an animal rescue and rehab center. Here elephants, big cats, birds, reptiles, and other endangered species have been saved from poachers, traffickers, and circuses globally. Today, they are looked after by dedicated conservationists from around the world. From medicine to massages, organic nourishment to surgeries, these animals enjoy the warmth of positive reinforcement. The effort to achieve this transforms humanity. There is genius within us that is sparked when we channel our intrinsic empathy. I would like to personally recognize Anant, infinity personified, for his dedication in creating the star of the forest, Vantara, In his own words, this is an attempt to heal the environment. It is a start at rebuilding our bond with animals. As his father proudly told us the next day, he has turned Charles Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest on its head, making it protection of the weakest. Then there is Ratan Tata's state-of-the-art hospital for small animals. This marks a good and great use of CSR. I urge the many directors across Tata companies to follow suit by putting enhanced CSR into animal welfare, something that Mr. Tata himself would surely approve of. These are world-encompassing views that should evoke an all-life, all-planet response from us. After all, what is human progress? Is it only to be captured by the likes of GDP or per capita growth? Are all these parameters real or just an illusion? Most businesses plan their CSR only in adjacencies to get clawbacks for their own enterprise. A focus on all life provides a first-mover advantage, a FOMO game changer in CSR across industry. Who knows? Entertainment media could be evoked to develop Christopher Nolan's next Dark Knight, crusading against animal oppression. Pharma could strive to make medicine accessible to all animals. Construction could create equitable ways to build which safeguard the habitat of animals and birds. The military-industrial complex could report the number of animal casualties, and not just humans. Other species cannot be collateral damage and waved off as stuff happens. The media accent on humans is also an iatrogenic of democracy, because only humans vote. I invite you to reevaluate your business strategies and AOPs. There are real-world consequences to losing the kingdom of animals. Without them, human lives will not only be far less magical, but also economically unstable. There is a link between industry and animals. This appears when we look at the macro picture, which doesn't only mean macroeconomics. It means viewing our planet's spread and contextualizing our own lives within this. Many of our guests here are achievers who have blazed paths of great success. Today, several of us are engaged in succession planning, seeking to smoothly hand over our life's work to the next generation. However, we must be aware that we often fall prey to an adversary lingering within the chamber of our own minds. This is speciesism, the illusion that only human lives matter because only humans can create value. Such narcissism is perilous. It shrinks our understanding of the wondrous architecture of life. It also hides the real math which underpins our existence. Did you know nature's ecosystems generate $140 trillion of value each year? This comprises everything animals do, from tiny bees to trophic predators. Industry relies on the conservation of nature. Saving animals is ethical. It's evocative. It's also smart business. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Meera-ji, for those thought-provoking and insightful ideas for all of us to sink in. And now we move on to the big chat GPT part of the evening, the ET CEO panel discussion, and what a lineup it is. May I invite on stage Ajay Piramal, Chairman, Piramal Enterprises, Falguni Nair, Founder, Nykaa, Rohit Java, CEO, Hindustan Unilever, and S.N. Subramanian, Managing Director, Larsen & Toubro. Thank you all so much for being here. It's an honor and a privilege for us. Thank you. The topic of discussion, putting India on the path to a $10 trillion economy. And clearly, 10 trillion is the new 5 trillion. I would like to also invite on stage Arijit Burman, Associate Editor, The Economic Times, who will be moderating the panel. Over to you, Arijit.
Thanks, Aris. Before I start, let me also inform everyone that we are now joined by the Honorable External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. Thank you, sir. Chat GPT or not, I don't know, but the topic of our discussion is certainly, putting India on the path to a 10 trillion economy is probably fodder for 2 PhD theses. And as I was telling Mr. Jawab earlier, that we have to crunch it all into 25 or 30 odd minutes. So I may sound rude if I interject. It's probably my old television anchoring habits. Old habits die hard. Please don't take it too seriously. I'm just managing time. So before we take any longer, I'm going to start straight away with Mr. Jawa. You're a Unilever wanderlust. All over the world. Last pit stop, I think, was China. Unlike China, India historically has been a consumption-driven economy, right? Now, for the last 1 year, however, we've been hearing this narrative from several consumer companies, including HUL, that both value and volume growth, that's been on average or even declining in some categories, in rural markets or in the low or middle income India. So this year's recovery, are we expected to be on a lower base, or actual consumption demand is coming back and we are out of a funk, so to speak?
Yeah, since you started by asking me on my trajectory of travel of the last 2 decades, so I've been in almost all countries in Southeast Asia, also a significant time in China as well, and having been back for about a year, I am very, very optimistic and charged by what I've seen, because it's almost like a new chapter in my career, and I see coming back here, in the space of digital or soft infrastructure, absolutely path-breaking evolution. We often struggle with companies, to transform them digitally, and here's a whole country over the last 2 decades is absolutely transformed, and that India tech stack is massively changing the country. It's opening up aspirations. It's effectively creating a new factor of productivity, which is going to last a long time. I also see a massive transformation in infrastructure, hard infrastructure, whether it's ports, bridges, roads, airports.
Yeah.
And that means that the productive capacity of the economy is unleashing. So if you look back and see the trajectory of consumption, which is really what closer to my field of business, closer to my heart, and I've tracked across every segment that we are in, and we are every segment of ours is about 4 or 5 times, lower than neighboring countries like China, Indonesia, and so on and so forth. So it is absolutely without doubt that you can see the inflection curves taking place, and all of the categories will go through an S-curve. It's unlikely it's going to be a smooth, straight path. If you look back 10 years, it's not been the same either. But if you do a time travel today and come back 10 years, all our markets we are in are going to be much, much bigger. So we have to not get too focused on just the very short term. Just look at what companies like ours, we've been here 90 years. Yeah. We have, what's good for India is good for us, and we know that this is going to be a bright future.
So this is a structural shift.
I think this is just a wrinkle in the passage of time. Right. And we must not look at short-term volatility as a big deal. If you look back, we invest for the future. Segments across our markets are doing well. Some are slow, some are fast. So I feel very, very positive, and we are here and investing for the long term.
Right. Falguni, if I may come to you, Rohit talked about S-shaped recovery. People talk about K-shaped, U-shaped recovery. From your corner office, you get a ringside view of the premium segment of the market, which is, of course, growing, but is also interestingly getting younger. Just yesterday, one of my Gen Z colleagues taught me a new term. It's called Sephora teens. Apparently, teenagers are visiting Sephora shops to buy beauty products. Now, this is happening in India when in America, Revlon, Body Shop, all these brands are shutting shop. So, what's happening?
So I think if you look at the consumption of beauty in the country, and Rohit mentioned the S-curve, we are on a per capita basis, our consumption is even below where we should be given our income levels. So there is a lot of categories, especially premium categories and lifestyle categories, where I think consumption in the country is way beyond where it should be. And I think there's a lot of good work that has happened in terms of uplifting the incomes of Indian households. And the numbers there are stunning when we look at that. I mean, just someone like me and all of us have seen economy for so many years. And the way the economic classes have been lifted to upper income levels, and that is surely to drive consumption. Yes, the consumption age is getting younger. Gen Z, I think even Nykaa stores, you'll see a lot of Gen Z. And I think beauty as a category, fashion as a category has a huge appeal to young population. And today's consumption is being driven by them. They are, I think they spend differently. They spend differently, and they're there to enjoy travel, enjoy lifestyle, and maybe eating out. So you can really see the impact of their consumption on certain industries.
Yeah, we met Mr. Tata, Mr. Noel Tata here, who's among the guests, and he was saying even in the Zudio stores, beauty is becoming a big segment. Many might say that it's linked to 4 years of, there's ongoing bull market, which has created a lot of wealth for a lot of people. But Mr. Piramal, I want to ask you, we touched upon consumption, but for a 10 trillion economy, we will need many more houses and finance for families to acquire those homes. You're present in both these areas. What trends do you see that give you hope in these sectors?
So I think we will reach a 10 trillion economy in the near future. I think what's important, as the Prime Minister says, is to have a Viksit Bharat, which means growing the economy as well as growing on the Human Development Index. If we have to grow at 8% GDP to reach 10 trillion, the financial sector has to grow at least 18%. My concern is that there will not be enough of capital available to grow. Debt is very important. As we've seen, history shows that debt is what takes us forward. If we've talked about the pillars of growth, which the Honorable Finance Minister said, one of them, of course, is inclusive development. It's also infrastructure, and it's the financial sector. Today, we are too reliant on banks. Yeah. Almost 60% of the debt is given by banks. That's where I think with all the effort the government has done in the JAM, the Jan Dhan, Aadhaar mobile, I think a lot of data is available. And we need to reach finance to the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. And that's where I think NBFCs play a role. And
or the corporate bond market. I mean, you need to finance long-term assets with long-term finance.
Correct. And there is no developed corporate market, and neither is there. And what I see now is that the funding to NBFCs is being constrained because banks are, I mean, you can't have only banks lending. So I think it's very critical that the upper layer of NBFCs, which are now being regulated almost as much as any bank is, or near there, you need to allow deposit-taking licenses. The other thing I want to really emphasize is on the human development goals. The Honorable Prime Minister spoke about aspirational districts in 2017, and there are 112 aspirational districts. If you look at if the 112 districts were to be taken as a separate country, then I'm sorry to say that in terms of really GDP, we would be somewhere 185th out of 192 countries. So I think there, unfortunately, not enough attention is being given. The Prime Minister has given a lot of focus to it, and we need to work on it. 16% of the population lives there, only 2.5% of the funding of CSR goes there. And similarly on education, and similarly on health. We have a long way to go to make it really a Viksit Bharat, which is inclusive for all.
I'll come back to you on that point because you raised a very important issue. But SNS, new jobs, they are not getting created in agriculture but off farms or in services. Now, even if half of India is to get urbanized, back of the envelope calculation says another additional 25 crore people will have to move out of villages. Now my question to you is, can they be fitted into existing cities like Delhi or Mumbai, where large-scale redevelopment is going on? We are seeing the Dharavi redevelopment project in our city. Can we accommodate them?
I think you called me last to ask the toughest question. So, but look at it the other way. I think you should look at it from not only fitting into the cities, but how to create employment. Come from a platform which is sitting on the highest backlog ever in its history. Out of the spate of inaugurations done by the Prime Minister, 20 of the projects have been done by us, including some of you had the pleasure of traveling through the largest undersea tunnel and the Atal Setu today. What I see is a terrifically positive atmosphere within the country. I wish I was 40 years younger. Mr. Naik hopefully had recruited me now, but we are on the other side of life. There's so much of positive energy within the system today. We employ about 375,000 laborers at any given point of time. And I'm telling you, and honestly telling you, I'm running short of 40,000 laborers. And we are not getting those laborers. This is basic skills like carpenters, barbenders, fitters, riggers, welders, masons, whatever. We're just unable to just mobilize them. We're just not available. This tells two stories. One, the MREGA schemes, the direct benefit transfers, and various other schemes introduced by the government are working at the ground level. And maybe there's no need for such people to come to some of these project sites to work. Number two, because of the excellent relationships at the Middle East and other countries that we have today, phenomenal relationships, I think one of the organizations that has benefited heavily is Larsen & Toubro. And you see phenomenal amount of work there. And much of the workforce, in spite of their localization, etc., 40 to 50% of the labor strength are Indians. And therefore they're getting jobs abroad, which means also remittance money back to India, etc. So this positive atmosphere, which is there both within the country and in some of the areas close to India, has created a need where people need not necessarily migrate to cities. This is one. The second aspect is this huge development of the hinterland, roads, rail, and creation of new settlement areas like Dholera, Shendra, Bitkin, and such. I think you'll have huge industry migration to some of these other areas instead of being the met cities. So when you have that, new jobs will be created in places which are relatively unknown today. And thereby you have a place where some of these cities are going to develop as new cities. And that's
But will they have that kind of scale? If I look at Delhi, Delhi's 1,483 square kilometers to be precise. Will Dholeras of the world be of that scale to fit in, our India's large population?
So
the new
centers. You fly over Delhi today. It's not Delhi. It's Noida and Faridabad and Gurgaon and Maneshwar and God knows what else. And maybe it's going up to Sonipat today.
Yeah.
You look at Bombay today, there's no more Bombay. Bombay is there, but then you go to Navi Mumbai, you're going to have Alibag developing, you have the Navasheva area developing, you got the new Mumbai area developing, you have the Sitco Nagar developing. So it's greater Mumbai, it's very greater Delhi. So you have massive cities coming up like Hong Kong or Guangzhou or whatever it is, and this will house 35-40 million people and not necessarily in Mumbai alone. And therefore we are creating a different paradigm. And the paradigm is also sort of supported by an ecosystem which is positive. Second, there's a lot of peacefulness. Of course, you read our television channels and newspapers, you get a lot of other news, but there's one city where I'm allowed to come back and sleep in my own bed. Anywhere in the world, you're worried about it. From Yemen to Vietnam, you have turmoil. Here's a very peaceful, lovely, democratic, and great clean country. What more do we want?
Correct.
But we have to grab this opportunity and see how to push the scale forward to achieve whatever we need to achieve. That's the way I look at it.
But Mr. Jawa, you've traveled across Southeast Asia, and Mr. Piramal also, I would like your point of view on this. We are building new cities, we are aiming for $10 trillion economy, but are we factoring in issues like air quality, pollution, healthcare, the quality of life basically? Because that is, as Meeraji said, as important as we talk about mobility of labor, and moving beyond the urban pockets.
I speak from the lens we look at it, which is that a large part of the population, indeed there's urbanization, but there's a large part of the population lives in the villages, in smaller cities. Factories are spread all over the country. We have 29 factories. As a small way of making a difference, 18 of our factories have this program called Prabhat. It's a 10-year program where we take the community around the factory. And this started as early as, I remember, as a training. We used to call it Integrated Rural Development Program. But now that thing has been scaled up. We've got a decade of experience now. Almost 10 million people have been impacted on livelihood, on water conservation, on good agricultural practices. So we must first of all be mindful that real India lives in the rural and the small towns. And companies with big reach like ours that get to almost all parts of the country need to make a difference to the communities that we live with. And if one and many such companies did that, that's how you make a difference to the nature, to climate, to waste and opportunities such as those. I think the urban stress, probably the other panelists more competent to respond to that, that as super cities become big, you do need modern urban planning, because today at least 60 cities, more than 1 million each. China has 400 of those cities.
Yeah.
We don't have the luxury of making them ground up. So we'll have to think of other innovative means to make sure that they don't get into a log jam where the productive capacity of the city is basically lost because people are on the roads. And that is going to take some engineering.
I asked you also because you worked a lot in China, so you've seen how China has tackled this issue. I mean, before the Beijing Olympics, everybody talked about the black sky or the suit, across, and that became a big global headline. So that's one of the reasons why I also asked you this, that you work there. How have you seen?
I think the model in India is unique and distinctive. The arc of growth will be quite specific to our conditions. And even in urban cities, if you have to do inclusive, you have to be inclusive.
Yeah.
There have to be more creative ways of solving problems with the participation of people and the communities. In a sense, bottom up. And perhaps my colleagues can respond more competently on that front.
Ms. Piramal?
So I think I'm just picking up on what was said before. I think we are trying to really work in the remotest corners of the country across, because I think that's where it's important, whether it's conservation of water. Water is a big challenge across the country. And our people, we have almost 5,000 full-time people in our social projects, and they're working to see how we can make better use of water, how we can have better practices so that productivity goes up of the land that is being used. I think that is what is important, and educating people as well. As far as cities are concerned, as far as factories are concerned, I think today almost all the more, let's say, better companies are very conscious of the environment as much as anybody else is. We need to look at some of the older plants and see how we can, accelerate their development so that they are in line with what is the best practice.
Falguni, India to get to 10 trillion GDP mark will be much faster if we boost the women's participation in the workforce. Now, as a successful women professional, you were a banker before, turned successful entrepreneur, where do you see still the bottlenecks and the challenges for women?
I think greater participation of women in the economy is not if but a must. And however, we also have to admit that I think given the traditional gender roles as well as the demands, societal demands that are made on women, I think what happens is that most of us who are great believers in equal opportunity and would like to see a lot more women, I think the numbers that we see, the reality we see, it really is not looking good. And I think all I can say is that I think this has to change, and it is changing very rapidly with younger women. I think at NICA of course, we have 50% of our staff is women. And we do feel that women need to be empowered to be in the right decision-making roles. They need to be empowered to think of their future. And I think our message to women is that let the spotlight of your life be on them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very important, and it'll come as a change that women should want it. And I think there are certain requirements in terms of them wanting it, and then I think the society will come up with answers to what is it needed for truly equal participation of women.
Right. SNS, we're seeing a new credit cycle, but based around retail rather than corporate loans. I know L&T Finance, you're focusing now. Also, you're restructuring the organization and focusing more on retail. Do you think a mega investment push is waiting for elections to be out of the way for private sector capex to really pick up?
Yeah, much talked about question as to why the private capex was not happening, but in a way it's happening. Maybe you've not seen the tiger of it, as they call it. But you can see it happening. During COVID times, let's say we represent somewhat the infrastructure of the country. Our order book was nearly 90% government.
Yeah.
Today, I would say it's about 65% government. So you've seen private orders kicking in. And therefore, this trend will continue. It will continue to increase. What you have to see is once the basic infrastructure is done, which is the roads, the rail, the basic necessities of human beings are taken care of. There's a beautiful example I'll tell you. If you've flown from Kolkata to Delhi, let's say 10 years back, you just take off from Calcutta, you see darkness except for Varanasi in between, Lucknow in between, and then you land in Delhi. Today you see the swath of light.
Yeah.
It's terrific, the Atal mission, what has done in terms of rural electrification and such. The Har Ghar Jal program, where you lift water from a lake or a river and transfers it through huge 5,000, 6,000 square kilometers of territory and deliver water right in front of a house, is an unbelievable thing for rural households, because the rural household lady or somebody had to trudge kilometers to carry a pot of water on her head and get it back, and today you just pump the pump and you get water right in front of your doorstep. The gas supply at many rural houses is another game-changing program, because the massive use of firewoods, etc., burning your head and hair to cook food for your family, is now again it's a massive shift in the way you look at life. So you have so much time more for other things. Imagine it. We used to have an advertisement, I still have in our corporate magazine, where you put a lady and a young girl sitting with a bulb on top of her head. The meaning is that today, after 6 o'clock, you can spend your time reading, watching TV, etc. An earlier time, they used to just go to sleep or while away the time. You didn't have time for anything else. What it does is this unleashes an extra terrestrial force into the economy, which is educated people, which is Nari Shakti, huge amount of ladies coming to the workforce because they have the time now. And also COVID has taught us work from home and work from anywhere and work from a bus stand, work from a rural house, and therefore you have people with heavy brains working from many parts of the country, which was earlier not the case because you had to come to a big city to work. I think these are unbelievable changes that are happening.
So you will not agree to the fact that, you know, what many commentators say, that we are seeing private sector capex picking up only in PLI-linked schemes or those linked to enhanced public spending in infrastructure. It is actually more broad-based.
PLI scheme definitely has helped, no doubt, but I think it's more broad-based.
Okay.
It is more broad-based.
Okay. Mr. Piramal, you're also in retail lending, where there's been a lot of turmoil recently because of RBI and SEBI's regulatory actions. Do you think it's an overkill or a cleanup of the KYC regime, which eventually will be good for the system?
I think the way I see regulators are that they don't want to take any chances. So before there is any issue coming up, I think they raise enough heckles so that people are all conscious about it. I don't think there's a challenge today, but I think with so much growth in retail and unsecured lending, that's where the regulators are worried. And so it's fair that they raise the issues. And I think most people are now pretty conscious of it. And so you will see that there will be lending which will be more, I think, more sensible. And especially some of the new, I don't want to say that, the fintechs and all, who did not have as much experience or knowledge about what lending is. I think now you will see that that has been now curtailed.
Right. The other theme, is digitization. Everybody talked about it. Satyan talked about AI. Cyrus talked about ChatGPT earlier. Falguni, the success of our digital infrastructure, UPI, Aadhaar, RuPay, has been an outcome of intent, time, money, and investment. We are exporting them, and rightfully so. We all as Indians should be very proud of that. Where else can we replicate to create such large-scale public goods? Can it be in education? Can it be in healthcare, R&D?
I think all of them. I think even in retail, we hear from our partners that what India has today from a digital, execution perspective is far ahead of elsewhere. In fact, I wanted to comment on the investment front that the capital expenditure definition has to change. Companies like us invest a lot in technology, and unfortunately we have to write it off every year. So there's a lot of investment that goes into technology, goes into education, and all of that is not really being capitalized. And that is being used globally to deliver, obviously, India could take all of these services from our shores and deliver to companies abroad. So I think the entire digital capability, be it in education, healthcare, retail, because I'm familiar with retail, and is ahead of what we see globally. And I think the brain power that we have in our country is really helping us solve very complex problem at scale. And I think we will see India having a more, like what we saw in IT services and BPO later, I think that could really very well happen where from our own shores we provide digital services to the world. In fact, it's already happening. And I see that as a big phenomenon.
And I'll get Mr. Jawa on this. That beyond capital, which we seem to be attracting comfortably now, and labor, which we have a surplus rather than shortage, the third variable in the equation is productivity. And there, a lot of hope is pinned on digitization. Now, you've led several digital transformation across Unilever around the world. What's been your experience and how are you doing that in India?
I'd like to just zoom in on something that has been built, in fact, in India. We have an app called Shikhar. So 70% of our business is in general trade, traditional trade, small kirana stores, and that's the bedrock of the Indian economy, 60-odd million small enterprises. We've been building this app called Shikhar, which is essentially an app on which the retailers can order. So we get to 3 million outlets directly, which 1.3 million now use the app regularly. They can order anytime they want. So today we have 1.5 million signals coming every day. We know what they want, what they're surfing. And this platform by itself is a big opportunity, for instance, for us to serve on their own business development needs, better bookkeeping, loans, education for their children, insurance for their shop. and it becomes not just purely a transaction of our goods, but also a form of a platform, a relationship. And the literacy levels and the intuitiveness of the UX these days is so easy that the technology is not just a very niche. It's a very much of a mass democratized tool, and I see that happening in this very, very fundamental and basic part of our business. And I'm very, very optimistic with what we can do with that particular asset that's been built over the last 10 years. So that's an example. And stuff like AI, we're using that in this area. So we can customize offers for retailers and so on and so forth. So the possibilities are endless, and that itself is how productivity in our line of business, for instance, can be unleashed, as an example.
SRS, there is a lot of worry also that AI will destroy the job market. Now, Mr. Piramal talked about the human capital index. Now, are we as a country creating enough creators who have agency, who can leverage AI to their advantage, or are we just producing great executors, or, as some people would call them, automatons?
Then I'll answer the question in a different manner, if you permit.
Of course.
Leave the AI part of it out. So these technologies will come in, will zoom for some time, will boom out, and something else will come in. That's been the world. As I see it, there are 4 or 5 major shifts that are happening which will take care of many of these things. Number one is the digital shift, and that's very important because it's creating unknown thought process. People like me will get outdated. The younger guys with more dexter fingers to handle the piano will be more prosperous in the situation, but so be it. For example, within the company today, we use AI for looking at contract conditions and picking out nasty conditions, funny conditions, conditions which you're not used to, etc. We're looking at data to see how to improve operational efficiency. In our finance business, we use data to look out who can be given a loan, who cannot be given a loan, KYC and other things are much better checked. I think it's a terrific thing that's going to happen, and it will be there for the next 10 years. It will change things the way we have never seen. It will be a different paradigm as we see it. The second is a geopolitical shift. This is, the huge migrations you see Mexico to US, and even within India from states which do not develop very well due to political and other reasons. There will be migration to states which are more prosperous. That will lead to issues of tension of ethnicity, caste, etc. And we need to see how to factor that into our way of working and such. Third is this alternative fuel, which not many are talking about. It's important because we're used to this petrol and diesel. I think slowly the advent of EV, ethanol, methanol, maybe hydrogen tomorrow, or something else as we go by, will again change the way we do business. In many of our sites today, we started using solar-powered vehicles, which was never thought about.
Correct.
And more important is the sustainability aspect, which we discussed, but sustainability is not ESG. The number of hospitals that have suddenly come up after COVID, the number of schools and educational institutes which have sprung up after COVID, not necessarily a typical school, but this e-shiksha learning and stuff like that, they're all remarkable. I think these shifts will take care of many of these aspects of other tendencies of negativity that will come in, because we need people with that kind of equilibrium and brain to be employed in such areas, and thereby a massive reskilling and retraining of people will have to take place beyond the necessary skill required to develop.
And that is happening.
Happening, not at the speed one likes. It could happen better. So all of us have to play a part in it. It's a very, very deep-rooted game. It's a very, very tough game. You're talking about 1.4 billion people. It's not easy to manage that, but these are happening, and this is something which is very, very interesting as we go forward.
Right. I think we are running out of time, so last word to you, Mr. Piramal, and this Satyan touched upon. Our youth are today brimming in confidence, but are we fully exploiting the demographic dividend the way we should? Indians are developing the best tech for the world, but are they doing it for Indian industry as well?
So they are doing it for Indian industry, but your question whether are we really maximizing the potential of the dividend, of the demographic dividend, I think there's a lot more that we can do. In terms of education, just to tell you that, we do an annual survey in an organization called Pratham, which is called ASAR.
Yeah.
In ASAR, we find that in class 3, the people on an average of only 59% of what is the global average in India. And when you go up to class 10, it is only 36%. in school learning levels. So I think if we can, raise the level of education, which I must compliment the new education policy which this government brought into after several decades, is a step in that direction that requires a lot of training for the faculty as well as parents and students, but I think that's the way to go. So yes, there is some dividend we are getting, but not enough.
We've covered climate, we've covered credit, we've covered consumption, digitization, urbanization, all in half an hour. I think that's a remarkable feat. Rohit, SNS, Falguni, Mr. Piramal, thank you so much for this riveting conversation. Let's enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you so much, CEOs, for that extremely illuminating and forward-looking discussion, and thank you, Arijit. It was fascinating to hear the power panel tackle real-world issues like changing production and consumption, India's overdependence on banks, and unlike all of you who speak fluid Gen Z, I, a younger boomer, just learnt the existence of Sephora teens. I shall go back with this thought. Thank you all once again for that extremely stimulating discussion. And now, with that, ladies and gentlemen, for our next segment, I'd like to call upon stage a man who is the face and brains behind India finally punching its weight on the world stage. Not just geopolitically, but economically and culturally. He can be credited with bringing the world up to date with New India. He has been on a mission as India's chief evangelist, skillfully negotiating the country's agenda across global arenas. It gives me great pleasure to invite India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, to the stage. Big fan, sir. Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Jaishankar will be in conversation with Pranab Dhal Samanta, Executive Editor, ET Politics. Pranab, Dr. Jaishankar, over to you both.
So, Dr. Jaishankar, welcome to the ET Awards, and thank you for making it. Let me start by just talking about the churn which is happening in the world. The world has been in churn, a lot of churn. If you just look at the last decade, the US-China dynamic, that has gone a reset. The Russia-Ukraine war, the situation in the West Asia region, and of course the pandemic and the global economy. In all of this, we've also seen change happen in India. We have seen a full majority government, which is now into completing its second term, and you've been part of that entire journey. In fact, you've also traversed a long journey in your career before that. So in short, let us hear it from you. What has changed in India and what is changing between India and the world?
Pranab, first of all, let me say what a great pleasure it is to be here. I had the good fortune of coming in early and listening to the last panel. And in a way, what the last panel did was it captured a lot of changes which are taking place. So here's the bit I want to add, which is how does the world see those changes? So let's take the four aspects of those changes. First of all, the politics. I think the world sees a vast improvement in governance. It sees not just a full majority government, it actually sees a prime minister whose popularity rating is the envy of all other politicians in the world. It sees something very rare in this century, the possibility the probability of 3 successive terms in a democratic polity. Now, what does that mean? That means both progress and it means stability. And therefore, you come to the second aspect of it, the economics of it. Again, they see the enormous infrastructure change, driven by Gati Shakti. They see the easier to do business, the lesser bureaucratic load on the economy. I'm not sure the world is entirely conversant with all the details, but they can sense, these 250 million people who come out of poverty, the layer above them, which is getting into a neo middle class. So they can sense that, and they know that there is this consumption and production increase out there. If I were to move to technology again, there is a very big difference in the way they see us over the last 10 years. It's no longer, with due respect, about Bengaluru and IT-enabled services. I think people see there's a much bigger innovation, startup, skilling effort going on. Very much, in a way, there's a kind of an appreciation that actually India is beginning to take manufacturing seriously at last. And without manufacturing, actually nobody's going to take you very seriously on technology. And finally, on the cultural side, there is an appreciation that, that today we are behaving differently. There is a certain self-assurance, there is a way we carry ourselves, we speak our own metaphors language, we think through our own solutions. To me, more than anything else, that change has registered with the world. So what does it mean to round it off? I think what it means for the world is we will be more valued and appreciated as a collaborator or a partner. It could be on, big geopolitical issues, how to create favorable balances. It could be on big issues like climate change. It could be on technology issues. Economically, I think an enormous interest in how to bring India into new supply chains. In the digital side, how does India get more deeply into a more trusted, transparent digital world? So I would say, no question, much greater appetite for India in markets abroad, in both economic markets, but political markets as well.
I would like to just touch upon the point you made about cultural adjustments. The cultural particularities of the Indian democracy, per se. How do you think the West has adjusted to that, given that it also has tied the economic imagination of India somewhat in what it looks at Indian democracy, but now when you look at the economy story, they have to accept or adjust with the Indian cultural particularities. What I'm referring to, even if it is the Citizenship Act or the fact that they also had a Lautenberg amendment, how much of that gap is being closed as the economic conversation catches up?
Well, look, when any country, any society rises or changes, there will be an adjustment process. It's not fair to expect automatic understanding. If the rise is sharp, if the changes are very significant, then the gaps will be more. So there will be issues. There are issues. I don't think anybody would deny it. You gave an example, which is CAA. You can see in some parts of the world that there's an automatic buy into certain narratives, particularly vote bank type narratives. Now, nobody really figures in that this is a consequence of the partition. That you have neighbors where the minorities, the numbers have gone down dramatically, and those people have to go somewhere. In many cases, the nature of the faiths are such that the only place they can go to is India. Now, these are all countries who, by the way, do the same thing themselves. I mean, many of them have used religion or language or other attributes as a faster pathway to citizenship or immigration in their own case. But yet they would buy into it. So there will be issues. I think what is important is how do we, how do we communicate better? How do we set out our narratives when we encounter something which is difficult or different? How do we have the confidence to counter that? The rise of any country is always accompanied by a certain argumentation and a certain marketing, if you would. And I think that's exactly what is happening to us.
I will also touch upon the other point which you made on the economic side about manufacturing. I mean, we've heard this from the government and we've heard this from you before also, that India needs to catch up on manufacturing and we want to sort of go back and get back those years which we missed. But when you look at, and this is an audience full of business people over here, manufacturing leads us to the question of supply chains. The moment we go into supply chains, we enter the big dragon question, the China question. And our geopolitical competitions, some may call it rivalry, has led to a situation where businesses have had to adjust. But what do you do when you take off one layer, two layers, the third layer, there is still China? How do you expect Indian business to craft their strategy on China as India also navigates as a government the geopolitical territory which has been edgy with China?
Well, I think, there are many aspects to that question. The first aspect is this. In the earlier era, if I can call it that, let us say pre-2015-16, not just, I'm picking that not because of what is the change here, but also what happened in the US. We thought of trade essentially as a function of efficiency. Business was you go where it is most efficient to go. Today, if you fast forward to 2024, in many domains you would put a certain security layer. There are many businesses where it might be more efficient to go there, but you don't want to go there because there are many other implications, including security implications of going there. Another factor which you would put in is actually the socio-economic consequences, the hollowing out of industry in those who were advanced economies, and the dampening of employment and innovation in those who were budding industrial economies. I would put ourselves in that category. So today people would look rightly at what is the obligation to our own society as well. So there would be a social, employment, security. These are all additional factors in how choices would be made. I mean, if you were asking me what does business do, it depends on which part, what do you do, which domain you are. There would be some certain areas where I think the sensitivity, the transparency, the trust, anything digital today, telecom today, I mean, these are areas where actually trust will be a very, very crucial factor. And I think people had better wake up to it, because if they make business choices which would lead them to situations where they might find themselves in difficulties because the rest of the system will not be facilitating the execution of that choice. Now, for a lot of other stuff, here's the problem. We can keep complaining that there's one country which accounts for 30% of manufacturing, so many supply chains go there. But at some stage, we have to do something more than complain. Because if we don't build up our own supply chains, and I understand it's not that easy, and it cannot be every major company's responsibility to foster a domestic supply chain, but I would say it is also not something which they should be insensitive to. You know, where they can actually support domestic supply chain, they should.
So what do you want them to do more proactively in specific terms?
Look, it's not, you know, I think I'm not parking it on business. I think we meaning the country, we meaning the government, I mean business, I mean, you know, in a sense, a certain collective. We have to create a climate where more industry, more manufacturing, more innovation flourishes in our country. I mean, we have debates in this country where actually people say, you know, we are not capable of manufacturing. We shouldn't be manufacturing. I mean, I'm baffled how anybody can say such things. So, look, we may have missed a certain period of manufacturing because of the policies of that era. But if we have an opportunity today to reboard that bus, which is why, you know, there were remarks about PLI in the earlier panel, that if we can reboard the bus, if we can capture, we can enter the new industries which are coming up today. You know, if you are looking today at, say, semiconductors, you are looking at renewables, you're looking at green, clean tech, you're looking at space, you're looking at drones. I think we should make that push. I mean, we cannot be a major power without technology, and you cannot have technology without manufacturing. I think it's a very simple correlation out there we need to understand.
So, when people say that it is India's moment now, do you see because of the geopolitical situation, the way relationships are redefining themselves among countries? In the past, we always talked about building stakes in our relationships with other countries. Do you see the India stake rising in the foreign policies, the foreign and economic policies of other countries? Is that moment something you are experiencing in your daily interactions and conversations? And how do you think that can be best leveraged moving forward?
I can see it, but not yet in the very definitive way in which you are asking me. I can see the growing interest. I think people see different parts of the puzzle. There is, you know, one experience I've had in the last year, 2 years, a much greater interest, for example, in human resource, in skills and talent. So you actually have countries which historically are very resistant to movement of people now showing much greater interest in mobility. That's one example. I would say definitely in global business, a much greater interest today in seeing at least some of the supply chains go through India. So finding partners. Clearly, in many cases, interest in bringing aspects of business into India. I mean, that you know, that where do you actually set up shop in India, in what manner, and leverage that. I can see that happening, but it will take effort. I think we need to, you know, push that more strongly, and in a way, you know, the world will also watch how our own economy is doing. That also drives this aspect. So absolutely. I mean, I would say in pretty much every foreign ministry and every foreign trade or economic, you can say, ministry of the world, there would today be an interest in India and a desire to engage India. And you can just see it in the traffic of people coming. I mean, there is not probably a day that passes where there isn't somebody from some part of the world out here who is actually trying to make friends, influence people, and do business.
Use this moment to welcome the Finance Minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, to the gathering. Welcome, ma'am. Good, you talked about making friends. Going through your book, you have this very interesting narration and comparison with the Ramayana and about Ram and Lakshman, and you've been asked a lot of questions where you say that that Ram should find Lakshmans and India should look for Lakshmans. As we move ahead, you discuss about Lakshmana's counseling to Ram and how without Lakshman's support, Ram couldn't have reached or fulfilled the goals he achieved. But in a world where realists tell us there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests, how do you find Lakshmans? Or cultivate them?
Well, literally speaking by birth, but actually in diplomacy, by effort, by experience, by cultivation. I mean, look at the state of the world today. I mean, so far we've been talking business, supply chains, what is the interest of the world. And the fact is, largely we are talking about the global north. Okay, I mean, we are talking about China as well. So we are seeing today for a variety of economic, technology, and by the way, demographic reasons, because I would say one of the most underrated factor today in calculating the changes in the world is going to be the extremely sharp demographic changes we're going to see in the next decade. So, but we are talking so far of the global north. And the global north also, by the way, has an interest because, as I mentioned to you, it's not just about business. I mean, there's the issue of creating the right balances at a geopolitical level. And India that is a bigger economy, more capability. So if you take the realistic, shall I say, definition of a Lakshman, there will be countries who will see that there is a value in a relationship with India and in their calculations. But for the global south, we mean something very different. We are an exemplar, we are a motivator, we are a supporter. Pretty much everything, again, which we were speaking about earlier, your Jal Jeevan mission, your digital delivery, even the housing, the electricity, all these today are actually to differing degrees being tracked by the rest of the world. And when they see a country like India do this on scale, that if you look at the kind of numbers we are talking, we are talking 800 million, 400 million, 500 million. I mean, they know, okay, this is now tried, tested, scaled up as big as you can possibly get. And there too, there is a great desire to associate themselves with us and work with us. So I would argue today that in many ways we have this ability. We have this ability to be relevant to the north, to be relevant to the south, to be able to bridge this east-west. And part of what you see in outcomes like G20 or other international gatherings, even you could see this at the COP28 in Dubai, that is a sense, the different facets of India and the different facets of India's progress in the last decade. I think they have a multiple constituency out there, and those are your Lakshmans in the making.
So on that score, we'll just, the time's up for us, sir. And so wish you the very best and finding those Lakshmans and cultivating them and taking this forward. On that note, thank you so much for the conversation, Dr. Jaishankar.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jaishankar. The world is indeed our oyster, and thank you, Pranav. Do tweet your most memorable takeaways from this wonderful fireside chat using the hashtag #ETAwards. Now, the next person I shall have the honor of introducing has been the key architect of not just India's growth story, but also of the great Indian confidence story. She has been at the wheel navigating India through some very turbulent, choppy waters. Her steady hand and all steam ahead leadership have given India Enterprise and India Inc. clear pathways steering us on for our next tryst with destiny, Viksit Bharat by 2047. Her calm, focused approach has been most visible during the 6 budgets she has delivered. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to invite on stage chief guest of the evening, Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, to please grace the stage. It's wonderful having you here, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to request Shrutijit KK, Executive Editor, The Economic Times, to please grace the stage and have a wonderful conversation with ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Cyrus. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us this evening in Mumbai. Your tenure has seen extraordinary challenges, whether it is COVID, the war between Russia and Ukraine, or the conflict in the Middle East. And yet, today here we are with an 8% growth, envy of most of the world, and being credited with getting so much right. When you look, how do you look back at your own tenure, and what do you think are the things that we got right the most?
Thank you, E.T. Now it's become an annual event, and I tried avoiding it this time because of other compulsions, but the E.T. team has been, as always, very persuasive. And sorry I've reached here late, but the usual standard excuses. Well, look back, should I only to learn from all the challenges that we faced, or look forward because the prospects are so bright? And thanks to all Indians for the fantastic what should I say, fantastic resilience that we've shown between 20 and today, that we stand out if you look at all the global economies of some size. And therefore, I would think lessons have been learnt, some precedents have been set. We are looking forward to a bright Amritkal.
Wonderful. You've just completed, this is your 5th year as the finance minister. We are at the cusp of elections. Your government is going to seek a renewed mandate. Would you say the economic performance of your government is going to be one of the key planks as you seek a renewed mandate? The opposition has been raising price rise and unemployment, or rather, unemployment as 2 key issues. They've been trying to make that as a plank. What is going to be your approach when you go to the people for renewed mandate this time?
See, the opposition is well within its rights to speak about issues of concern which affect common people. In India, inflation is a repeat monsoon, crop, and a few uncertainties based repeat challenge which I think every government knows when it will hit them badly and what are the measures that they should take to keep it well within an acceptable level. It's only when there are extreme events that sometimes it goes beyond. But when it goes beyond, you should also be sure enough that you have enough tools to bring it back to where it should be. And that's where the contrast lies. In spite of COVID, in spite of global value chain disruptions, in spite of droughts in some area and floods in some others, I think this government has been very focused in keeping inflation well within the tolerance band. Probably 2 times it would have just gone above it, but soon enough it was brought down. As opposed to 22 months of double-digit inflation during UPA. And sure enough, this government or that government knew also the ways in which you can make sure by dealing with the supply side issues, you would have been able to control at least the food inflation, which is what those 10 years between 2004 and 14 did not see. And therefore, as regards inflation, if it's an issue which the opposition would like to raise, I think there's enough data-based substantial answers to give. However, inflation is always, as they say proverbially, it's a tax which is not levied, but the burden is there. So we should be conscious of it, and we should obviously do every time, everything, even if it's a repeat thing, we'll have to address it. But as regards jobs, and I'm sitting in Mumbai, I can see quite a few leaders of industry. Other than the questions which people would raise on India's data collection, you don't have enough information on formal employment, women's participation in workforce, or number of informal and so on, I think India is also seeing a major reset in the labor market, and that is very sharply seen now. On the one hand, you see people who are skilled, semi-skilled, who are also making efforts to upskill themselves and move on to newer opportunities, better opportunities. Equally, you're seeing the informal sector getting formalized. And when informal sector gets formalized, and at this scale, you're not counting them yet. So you do have a data paucity. And without adequate data on this, many of us are going with anecdotal examples of people not finding jobs. If only we take government schemes aimed at giving credit without collateral for people who want to do their own business, self-employed people who today are expanding their businesses. And how do I know that? Not anecdotally, but based on data. Banks where they took the first stage loan, let us say at 10,000, have moved over to having the second and the third stage loans, and it is on better performance in their business that the banks also come in with collateral-free, additional and increasing amounts. All these cannot be just one person doing it all for himself. They are creating jobs. We've not got a proper mechanism to count them, and as a result, it's fine for all of us to talk about labor, employment, participation of women, and so on. But as long as our collection of data is pertaining only to the small formal sector, and we miss out for various reasons the transition that's happening between informal to formal, we are not going to talk with data in hand. It's all right, we can have a conversation.
Ma'am, I want to come back to your budget speech. When you delivered the interim budget this year, you spoke about, I mean, you kept it short and sweet, and then you raised a lot of expectations when you spoke about next generation reforms. Could you give us a little bit of a sense about what is in store?
I'm purposely using the next generation as an expression rather than second generation, third generation. India missed out on continuing with good reforms since after 91. Although the package which was given to us by IMF and World Bank, and much has been said about economic reforms, opening up of the Indian economy, from then, opening up partially, yes then, and even now we are sort of almost close to full, but not really full, even now we are partial. But between these two stages, several stages of reforms which had to happen, even at the first instance, did not take off. Maybe one or two of the conditions were fulfilled, and after that everybody forgot about reforms. And between 2004 and 14 also, major reforms which had to be undertaken as the bedrock of things on which you can build the other reforms hadn't happened. So, not because I'm a part of this government, but you can just sit and back of the envelope calculate or count the number of steps that we have taken which are systemic reforms based. Finance Ministry, and therefore I will only speak about, let's say, the GST, IBCs of the world, the MCA portals, the faceless taxation, appeals going faceless, the GST system also becoming faceless, and the kind of customs reforms that we made in the airports and seaports, the turnaround of ships which come to India rapidly moving out, and the efficiencies for importers and so on. So there are ever so many things that one can count, but that is true of several other ministries as well. So when I say next generation reforms, I actually mean in every sector, the next stage of reforms will have to be undertaken. But what's more important is reforms cannot stop just at the central government's doorstep. We've worked with the states in carrying forward several of the reforms. In fact, one of the things on which some of the states were not so very happy, but I'm happy to say it here, is up to the FRBM limit. We are an ET environment, so I'm sure you're going to be happy hearing it. Up to the fiscal responsibility budgetary management law, which is with the center and with the states, up to 3% of your GSDP, you are allowed to borrow. That's for the states. But from the COVID era, we've moved every year by allowing additional borrowing over and above the 3%. But for every 0.25, 4.25s leading to the next 1%, and again 4.25s leading to the next 1%, adding up to a total of 5% borrowing. We went with reforms to be done and undertaken for each one of the 0.25%. Initially, there was resistance from states saying, how could you do it? We said, we are not restricting you within the 3%, which is your right, please go ahead. But if you want to borrow more, please let's all understand that we need to improve our systems. Many states, in fact, most states agreed to it in the first year. Now almost all of them do it. And as a result, you see at the state level, those reforms which we had taken for granted at the center happening even at the states. So the next generation reform we'll have to ensure that the third layer, the panchayat and the urban local bodies also join hands. After all, when you go in to set up businesses at the panchayat level or at the urban local body level, it is that third tier which comes into operation. They are the policy makers. And if they are not geared to opening up the systems, you're not going to have any difference felt. So in every sector, reforms that will have to be undertaken keeping in mind it has to percolate down to the lowest elected body that governs us.
Ma'am, your approach to stimulus has been to spend, focus a lot on infrastructure. I mean, you intervened with supply side measures broadly. At the time, you said that this will crowd in private sector capex. Has the private sector, and as you said, many captains of industry are here, and many of them indeed have made lots of investments. But broadly, has India Inc. sufficiently invested in this time? Have they met your expectations broadly?
You're sure you want to ask me this question in this audience?
Why not, ma'am?
No, that's a question for them. In fact, that question should be asked of them with me sitting here.
But the question is,
I think they are coming forward. I think they are coming forward, and like the way I said, when we are talking about employment, the scarcity of data, the transition, the reset that is happening in the economy, and such factors which we'll have to keep in mind when we assess employment as a whole for the economy, even as regards investments, private investment coming in, there is a lot of activity in some sunrise sectors. Semiconductors, solar, renewable energy, various other aspects of it, hydrogen, ammonia, green ammonia, storage capacities, rare earths, materials. Investment is happening. And we all know about it. We see huge columns written about it, welcoming such measures. But when we look for data, just as for labor, we look only at the formal sector and wouldn't care about informal. We don't look at the new and emerging sectors for investment, where huge changes are happening. But we tend to look at integrated steel plants of the world, cement factories of the world. Is capacity increased? They are sitting with excess capacity. They'll have to improve on it in utilizing it. They're sitting with logistics burden. We'll have to improve on that. But they're happy about changing over to a totally new sunrise sector. We need to see that as well.
Ma'am, the electoral bonds data was published yesterday, and there is a lot of criticism that how come several top donors are also people who are facing action from agencies and so on. Is there some thought about, I mean, one, how do you respond to that criticism? Two, is there a different way that the government is thinking about increasing transparency in the political funding process?
Linking it with ED, I think, is absolutely sitting and having a cup of tea in the lounge and having a little merry chat. Do you know for each one of the ED in this context as to when the payment was made? Was it before or was it after? Maybe it was before. And even after that, the ED chose to go and visit them. So let's not very quickly assume that every ED visit happened to those who later came around and said, I want to give donation, please save me. I think there's lots more homework to be done by journalists, and you have solid 2 months, even as you're covering the elections, to study it and then come to conclusion. I don't want industry to be badnamed like this. I don't think they come and give donations only because they want to escape the ED. It doesn't happen that way. ED existed before Modi, and ED exists even long in India till 2047, I'm sure, with all the Viksit Bharat. There is no direct correlation to ED and the donation business. And again, you don't certainly know where the donation went. They bought the bonds. But did they give it only to that government which is controlling the ED, or did they give it to the local governments which are run by other state parties? Are you sure before asking that question? So let's be clear, we are not going to speculate on the bonds. Data is now available. You are cribbing about not having the data. Please go do your homework, get it all out. We'll talk about it with a lot more facts before us.
Wonderful. I have so many more questions, but unfortunately, we are now out of time. Thank you so much once again, ma'am, for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shrutijit, and I request Nirmala ji, ma'am, please stay on stage with us. That fireside discussion was extremely enlightening, and thank you so much for the deep insights and takeaways from this wonderful session. And proceeding further, I would like to now request Vice Chairman and Managing Director of the Times of India Group, Samir Jain, and External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, to please join us on stage. Thank you all so much for joining us on stage. And now I'd like to invite CEO Deloitte South Asia, Romal Shetty, to please grace the stage and say a few words to our wonderful audience. Thank you, Romal. Over to you.
Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Honorable Foreign Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar ji, and distinguished guests. I'm honored here to be today celebrating corporate excellence as we embark on a journey towards a Viksit Bharat. As the world's 5th largest economy, India is on the cusp of a significant leap, bolstered by a robust government framework that includes a stable macroeconomy, extensive investments in infrastructure, physical, social, and digital, and a foreign policy that places India's interest at its core. Today, I will highlight some exemplary instances where government and corporate efforts have jointly set standards for excellence. Our nation is rapidly transforming its infrastructure, outpacing countries like the UK and Germany, with over 90% of our railways electrified. This leap forward has slashed emissions, accelerated transportation, boosted renewable energy use, and cut down crude oil imports. From 2013 to 2022, our logistics cost has dropped from 10% to 8.9% of the GDP, thanks to the improved roads, railways, and ports, alongside the implementation of GST. Leading this charge, companies like L&T are at the forefront of building a new modern India. On the digital front, through efforts like Digital India, we're using technology to transform governance, services, and economic growth. Companies like SBI are enabling financial inclusion and ensuring banking services are brought into every Indian's life. Two transformative trends have emerged. Girls now surpass boys in higher education enrollment, marking a historic shift. And women participation in labor force has surged from 23% to 37% in just 5 years. Highlighting this progress, and in this audience we have Hina Nagarajan and Leena Nair, who have shattered ceilings in the corporate world, serving as inspirations for the groundbreaking achievements. Honorable External Affairs Minister, your adept foreign policy framework of India First has improved investor confidence and instilled a great pride in Indians. Companies like Titan have also played a significant role in building the brand by innovating and making it in India. You also said that in your book, as a Vishwamitra, India seeks the well-being of the global south. We agree. We truly believe that the next round of growth will come from trade across this large segment driven by India Inc. Corporate India has been a cornerstone of our nation's development, propelling growth and innovation. At Deloitte, with over a century in India, we witnessed this transformation firsthand. India now has an opportunity to lead in sectors including semiconductors, space, artificial intelligence, manufacturing services, and MSMEs. We at Deloitte believe India is poised for a groundbreaking leap. The time has come for an entrepreneurship spirit to shine and drive impactful change. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Romal. Now, as any business person or musician, they all know that you always need a good pivot, a turn that changes the tune, picks up the tempo. In a song, it's the bridge that gives its special flavor and its lasting value. So for tonight, it gives me great pleasure to welcome someone very special. Entrepreneur, musician, youth icon, she is in the business of building businesses and making music. Earlier this month, as founder chairperson of Swatantra Microfin, she secured India's largest microfinance investment deal worth 1,930 crore, a whopping $230 million. With 7.3 lakh and counting followers on Instagram, this influential personality is, as one of her songs puts it, unstoppable. In addition, as director, Aditya Birla Group, she represents the 5th generation of one of India's most storied business houses. Please welcome a special guest for this evening who will be hosting our awards segment tonight, the lovely, gracious, and supremely talented Ananya Birla.
Thank you, Cyrus. Hello, ma'am. Hello, sir. Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I see that everyone here is looking so beautiful, so elegant, just looking like a wow. And I cannot believe that my dad actually used this phrase to describe the state of the Indian economy. We're just 3 months into 2024, and already, here we are, up and running, moving from Kaun Banega Crorepati to Kaun Banega $10 trillion economy. If we go back, it's been a fabulous last 12 months, with India maintaining its position as the 5th largest economy in the world and poised to become the 3rd largest in the next 3 years. With the Gaganyaan mission on scheduled countdown, we're now literally asking for the moon. And we've come to this point because of all of you, wealth creators, enablers, amplifiers. So a big round of applause to all of you gathered here tonight for keeping it rocking, keeping it rolling, and keeping it real. This is an audience that represents the very best of India, our grit, our dynamism, and our energy. In keeping with our Ides of March theme going, let's bring on India's champion gladiators and let the ET Awards begin. May I please request our Honorable Minister of External Affairs, Dr. Jaishankar, to give out the first 3 awards, and our Honorable Finance Minister, Ms. Sitharaman, to kindly stay on stage, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, the first award of the evening is the ET Conscious Corporate of the Year Award. This is today an institution with a fierce focus on sustainable finance, consumer education initiatives, and taking its CSR spend dead seriously.
With a focus on sustainability and ESG compliance, HDFC Bank, India's largest private sector bank, today boasts a CSR kitty of over 800 crores. Its CSR initiative Parivartan focuses on education, skill development, livelihood enhancement and healthcare, and has so far impacted nearly 100 million lives since its inception. HDFC follows responsible financing tenets, prioritizes renewable energy financing, and aims to be carbon neutral by 2032. Already having 940 green certified branches. In an era of digital payments, HDFC has taken on the task of educating the public about safe banking practices. Its Vigilante initiative has garnered a reach of 146 million within 6 months of its launch. For conducting their business responsibly, investing in sustainability and giving back meaningfully to society, ET is proud to confer the Conscious Corporate of the Year Award to HDFC Bank.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the 2023 Conscious Corporate of the Year, the bank with its heart in the right place, HDFC Bank. Ashima Bhatt, Group Head, Virtual Care Channels, HDFC Bank is here to receive the award. Ashima, please do come up on stage. Ma'am, a few words, please.
Honorable Finance Minister Sitharaman ji, Honorable External Affairs Ministers, Economic Times, distinguished guests, friends, and of course Economic Times, good evening. I am honored and deeply privileged to accept this award on behalf of HDFC Bank. But behind this award is the smile of the girl child for whom we build toilets so that she can go to school. Behind this award is the peace that the farmer has because his crop has yielded a high return because of the interventions that we've done. Behind this is the blessings of the women who we have empowered and skilled so that they can take care of their families and progress towards the future. As was seen here, our CSR program under the flagship of Parivartan has changed so many lives. It's a testament to our commitment to work in the societies where we are. It's very important and it's part and parcel of the way we do banking. The Parivartan program has touched over 10 crore lives. We have impacted over 2 crore students and much, much more. There are so many women that we have skilled. And as we've seen here, we've pledged to become carbon neutral by 2032. I stand here on behalf of all the employees of HDFC Bank and their families. It is they who give us the inspiration to take all this work forward. It's very important to also recognize the leadership, present and past, of the bank, who has indeed brought Parivartan to where it is. I once again thank Economic Times. To be recognized as a corporate with a heart and soul is probably the best award of all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. For our next award, I request you to raise your glasses to someone who has not only shown taste, but also a strong sense of revival without any hangover.
During COVID, the world's biggest liquor company chose Hina Nagarajan to be the first woman to lead its India business and get it back on the growth path with a focus on revenue and profit. Hina's strategy focused on the premium and prestige segment, moving India to drink better, not more. This boosted the premium portfolio's contribution and tripled Diageo's net profit in 2 years. She also revamped brands like Signature and Royal Challenge, entered the Indian malts and gins markets, and pushed Guinness in the premium beer segment. Diageo India has now become debt-free and seen its stock price increase by 65%. Hina Nagarajan's strategic leadership positioned it for success in a challenging economic landscape, earning her ET's Businesswoman of the Year award.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join your hands together for this year's ET Businesswoman of the Year, Diageo India CEO, Hina Nagarajan. Ma'am, please can I invite you on stage to receive the award from Dr. Jayashankar.
Honorable Finance Minister, Honorable Minister of External Affairs, ET, people in the audience, thank you so much for this award. I really feel very privileged, honored and humbled, I must say. There's a lot that was said about this award coming because of the fantastic results that have been delivered here. But I do want to talk about the thing that really makes me proud about the Diageo India team, and that's all the work that we do to do business the right way. We are championing inclusion and diversity. 50% of our executive, 35% of our senior leaders are women, right? And RCB, our women's team, is playing the playoffs today, the cricket IPL. And when I see a stadium full of parents who bring their little girl children to watch the game, that's when we know we are creating the Nari Shakti of the future. We are pioneering grain-to-glass sustainability, whether it's water or carbon. 95% emission reduction in our scope 1 and 2. We have replenished more water than we use in the communities that we operate in, 3 years ahead of target and by 25%. We are working on plastic waste. We are also looking at promoting moderation. It's difficult for you to imagine that an alcohol company actually tells people not to drink more, but to drink better. But we do it with huge purpose. And everyone comes to work saying that this is what brings us to work every day. I also wanted to say that I think it's about time that we officially changed the statement behind every successful man is a woman. Honestly, while things are changing and they will continue to change, in my life, behind every success that I've had is my husband, Arvind, who's sitting right there. He's my rock. Thank you very much, Arvind. My children, Karthik and Vidushi, who said, Mom, don't worry about the PTAs, just go and do what you want because we love seeing you going to work every day. Now, there may have been a reason why they didn't want me at the PTAs, but they are very, very proud of what I do. And I'm very proud of the fact that my daughter is again a torchbearer of the diversity passion that I carry. right? So all I want to say is this award really does inspire me, gives me more wings to contribute to the progress of our nation. And I really wish and hope that many people here and who are listening to this get inspired and do what Johnny Walker would say, keep walking on the road to progress. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Truly inspiring. The next award is a double dose, the ET Entrepreneur of the Year Award, one of pharma's quickest relief and most high-profile IPO stories.
A medical rep and a chemist came together 30 years ago to build India's fourth largest pharmaceutical empire, Mankind Pharmaceuticals. Ramesh and Rajiv Juneja were initially dismissed by industry giants. With a razor-sharp focus on consumers at the bottom of the pyramid, a motivated sales force of 15,000 representatives, and ad campaigns featuring superstars and regional film icons, the siblings disrupted the Indian pharmaceuticals market like few others. Today, Mankind has found its place in millions of Indian households with its flagship brands like Manforce Condoms, Prega News, Gasofast, Unwanted 21 and many more. ET recognizes their serving life ethos, solidifying their status as industry titans, and honors them with the Entrepreneur of the Year Award.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for ET's Entrepreneur of the Year Award to two amazing medicine men, Mankind Pharma Chairman Ramesh Juneja and Vice Chairman MD Rajiv Juneja. I request Dr. Jayashankar to please do the honors. If you could please say a few words.
Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Sita Ramanji, Honorable Foreign Minister, Shri Jayashankar ji, Chairman of ET Group, Mr. Jain, all my friends sitting in front of me. They are all very knowledgeable bunch of people. So I can say that whatever the award you have given to me, it has made me very emotional. And why so emotional? That I come from a small town, Meerut, and my first drawn salary was 300 rupees only. And today, I have been awarded to the highest and most prestigious award of the country. Today, wherever the Mankind is today, is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies of India. We are fourth largest pharmaceutical company of India. All because of our very strong team of 21,000 people working with us day and night. Their dedication, their emotion, I credit to all of them. In 1995, I started Mankind Pharma with a small amount of 50 lakh rupees, with the aim that the prices of the medicines which we will manufacture, we should reduce more noticeably. If you recall that in 1995, there was no WTO ruling and all that. And all major pharma companies were selling their products very high price. So with 50 lakh rupees amount and say how to start. So we reduced some of the products and reduced the prices by 5 times then. and still we earned. And thereafter, believe me or not, this trend is on that now most of the companies, they raise their prices, first find out whether mankind has introduced that product or not. So I'm happy that the Aam Aadmi of India is now affording the medicines because they are available at pocket-friendly prices. I believe that with the help of our finance minister, particularly we are depending more on China. As you must be aware of the fact that as far as bulk drug is concerned and many other packing materials are concerned, you may kindly give some sort of support to Indian companies so that the dependency on China would go down. And another fact is that at the same time, incidentally, our foreign minister is also here. I have one question to ask both of you. The question is, the more we go for manufacturing, more we go for more, we go for economic growth. Why China troubles us more during these days, these times? It is fact that more we grow, more China troubles us. As I don't know whether or not is a fact. So please take care of us and to provide a reasonable product, price products. So may kindly help us to help the industry to grow more and go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
When I was coming here, my wife said that smile when you're nervous, but this is a very special day. A smile is not coming. I'm excited, happy, very honored, Finance Minister. And Pride of India, Jewel of India, Dr. Shankar. Extremely honored and grateful that we are here. And very special thing about this award basically is what that there is a 30 days gap between announcement and commencement. So you can go through all kind of feelings that you become excited, very happy, very proud, and try to compose when you come here and speak sense. And sense does not really come. We forget everything, whatever we thought in our mind. But one thing I definitely want to say that whatever mankind has become, it is all because of 22,000 mankindians who have worked here. It's all because of them. We have reached to this particular level. And we all are our product of our past. So in my family, my mother, Sushila Devi Juneja, she was a true entrepreneur. My father was the most hardworking guy, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. kind of a guy. They came from Pakistan. They came to Firozpur in 1947. And they went for a wedding because money was not there. So one organization came forward and organized that group wedding. And the name of the organization was RSS. And today, look at the circumstances. We're receiving the award from the offshoot of that organization. When you come from that side of the society where adversities and disadvantages are a way of life, reaching to this place, getting this award, seeing this crowd over there, it looks unreal, unachievable, impossible dream. But in this new Bharat, anything is possible. So we are very proud of this country as well. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh ji. Thank you, Rajiv ji. And thank you, Dr. Jayashankar, for doing the honors. Can I please request you to remain on stage while Nirmala ji gives out the rest of the awards, please? Let's just say ET Reformer of this year literally needs no introduction, but constant updating on how he has been managing to further India's economic clout.
A seasoned diplomat with over 37 years of experience, Dr. S. Jaishankar became the External Affairs Minister of India in 2019. He has steered India's trade and economic diplomacy amidst geopolitical uncertainty and the after effects of the pandemic on global supply chains. He has strengthened bilateral relationships with USA and Russia and opened free trade talks with EU and Britain. Amidst all the geopolitical conflicts in West Asia, the Russia-Ukraine war and others, he has successfully projected India as a reliable partner in any China minus trade agreements. He also played a key role in the successful conduct of the G20 summit in Delhi, for being an ace navigator of India's interest through geopolitical turbulence and helping India emerge as a global superpower. ET is proud to confer the Reformer of the Year award to Dr. S. Jaishankar.
Ladies and gentlemen, India's Minister of External Affairs, Subramaniam Jaishankar, is ET Reformer of the Year. May I please request you, Dr. Jaishankar, to receive your award from the Honorable Finance Minister. Sir, if you could say a few words, please.
My cabinet colleague and dear friend Nirmala ji, Sri Samir Jain ji, dear friends. First of all, let me say that this is a very unexpected honor, and normally it's something you watch other people get. So I was really quite taken aback to learn that I was myself an awardee. But I do want to say that any foreign minister is as good as his or her government, as good as his or her country. And a lot of what we've been able to do in the world is actually because of all of us. In the last few years, there's no question we have left a deeper imprint in the world consciousness. When they think of India today, if one is talking in terms of challenges, they see how we handled the COVID, how we became through Vaccine Maitri a provider of vaccines to 100 countries across the world. They note how we take care of our citizens abroad. It could be Operation Ganga or Kaveri or Ajay. It could be the Vande Bharat mission during the COVID. They see today the achievements of our businesses in projects abroad, in terms of exports which have gone up. They note, of course, the enormous progress that India itself is making. Whoever comes after a gap is hugely impressed, but whoever comes to India even after a small interval actually notes the changes which are taking place. They see today that despite the tremendous global headwinds, this is an economy that is growing at 8%, the fifth largest economy. It was 11th a decade ago. It will be third, hopefully, very soon. So today when the world thinks of India, the world actually sees a country which is able to seek its own solutions, speak its own mind, which will stand up, which stood up for our consumer interest when it came to its energy choices, which stood up for its national security when it came to deploying on our northern frontiers and in staying with the Quad. So this is a different India today, and I cannot tell you how proud I am to represent it abroad. I would finally end with one thought for your collective consideration. We have seen over the last 5 years how much today the world has come into our lives. Today, as you know, we look around the world, we have come out of COVID, but you see a conflict in Ukraine, you see trouble in Gaza, you see the maritime concerns in the Red Sea. There are other issues, some on our borders, some beyond. So the world is not without its challenges. But at the same time, the world is full of opportunities. We are used to thinking of a global marketplace. There is a global workplace which is happening. There's a global tech place which is taking place. There are new opportunities to board the manufacturing bus, which we may have missed in the earlier years. But to do all that, we need leadership, we need vision, we need a collective commitment of a nation. And if we get all those right, I'm very sure that those who come after me will be able to represent the nation abroad with even more effectiveness and an even greater sense of pride than I've had. Once again, really my deepest thanks for being selected for this honor today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to the Honorable Finance Minister for gracing us with your presence today, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's been an honor. Yes, sir. If you can stay on for the rest of the awards, that would be... Thank you. Thank you, sir. The next award category is Emerging Company of the Year. As pace setter for India's energy transition, this company is about greening industry, while of course keeping a firm eye on the greenbacks rolling in.
Adani Green Energy, founded in 2015 by Gautam Adani, is now among the world's largest renewable energy businesses. It develops, owns and operates utility-scale grid-connected solar, wind and hybrid renewable plants across 12 states in India. The company has India's largest portfolio of over 20.8 gigawatts and has already offset CO2 emissions by a whopping 48.3 million tons cumulatively. It is now the second largest solar photovoltaic plant developer in the world. It has plans to invest $22 billion in India and has set its goal of reaching a 45 gigawatt capacity by 2030 to aid India's net zero target. Adani Green Energy is determined to enable affordable, accessible and clean energy and is keen to innovate and leverage technology to power sustainable growth for the country, thus winning ET's Emerging Company of the Year award.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is one clearly powerful company. The ET Emerging Company of the Year award goes to Adani Green Energy. May I please request Sagar Adani, Executive Director, Adani Green Energy, to come on stage and receive your award from the Honorable Minister of External Affairs. Few words, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, Mr. Jain. It's truly an honor and a privilege for me to accept this award on behalf of the entire Adani Green Parivar. It's a privilege to be here today. Our founder, chairman, and thank you to ET for selecting us. Our founder, chairman, Mr. Gautam Adani, always says two things. Well, first being that businesses like ours are never created in corporate offices. And the second thing is that any amount of extraordinary creation requires a great deal of personal sacrifice. So the award today, I want to truly actually dedicate to the thousands of our team members who toil day in, day out across more than 100 remote locations in every single part of the country. It is because of them that we are here today. It is because of them that we are who we are. So this really actually goes to all of them, and it's a humble privilege for us to accept it on our team's behalf. At Adani Green, we are on a bit of a war path. We have a target to construct and commission 45,000 megawatts of renewable energy by 2030. The scale of this capacity addition will not happen in any other country by any other private player anywhere else in the world. As a group, we have a very, very strong conviction in the India story. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, we feel very, very strongly that India is the place to be anywhere in the world. We are fully geared up, we are privileged, we will continue to run, we will continue to build, and we'll continue to do whatever we can humbly to be a small part in the growth story that is our country. So thank you very much, and have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Sitting as we are among sterling company, this next award is special. ET Company of the Year. And with its remarkable turnaround and record profits, what a company.
The State Bank of India, the nation's largest lender, has undergone a remarkable transformation in recent years, transitioning from reporting losses to achieving a net profit of 50,232 crore rupees in 2023. Under Dinesh Kumar Khara's stewardship, the bank's digitization efforts and retail lending have been revolutionized. Once bogged down by bad loans and provisions, SBI now has better loan underwriting standards than its PSU peers. This massive cleaning up of its books and a renewed consumer focus have resulted in SBI's stock price growing at a CAGR of 32% over the last 3 years. SBI stands out with India's largest network of nearly 22,500 branches, catering to a diverse client portfolio across corporate, rural and retail sectors. It is the market leader in housing, educational, rural and personal loan segments. SBI, the banker to every Indian, is also ET's Company of the Year.
Ladies and gentlemen, ET Company of the Year, State Bank of India, SBI Chairman Mr. Dinesh Kumar Khara is here. Sir, if you could please kindly come on stage to receive the award from the Honorable Minister of External Affairs. Words, please, sir.
Thank you very much. Honorable External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, Mr. Jan, and all my dear friends over here. It's a really proud moment for me to receive this award on behalf of more than 235,000 SBINs. Happy to be the banker to the proud Indians who are at the cusp of change, who are at the cusp of becoming a developed nation. We at State Bank of India feel privileged to be a part of journey for all the fellow SBINs and as well as in the life of all the Indians. Privileged and proud to serve more than 50 crore Indians and be part of their journey of development and part of their journey of prosperity. As a bank, we are 218 years young, and there are not many such entities across the globe which have got a proud privilege of featuring among the top Fortune 500 companies. For that, I would say that It's our endeavor and effort always to stay relevant for the customer segment whom we serve, for the economy, for which we feel that we have a role to play. My special thanks to the jury members who were chosen the State Bank of India as the Company of the Year. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next award goes to a real titan in the business landscape. He has been the force behind reinventing a classic brand and making it truly a glittering example of a nimble giant.
Titan, which began as a watchmaker, has over the years expanded into jewelry, saris, handbags, perfumes, and eyewear. Leading this diversification strategy and transforming Titan into a lifestyle behemoth is its CEO, C.K. Venkataraman. Mr. Venkataraman took over the reins at Titan in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. He has spent 3 decades at Titan, starting off as a marketing manager, ascending to leading the jewelry division, and then eventually becoming the managing director in 2019. Mr. Venkataraman has steered Titan from a largely brick-and-mortar business model to a retail venture spanning a combination of online and offline stores, championing premiumization along the way. His innovative and resilient stewardship manifested in Titan's revenue doubling within 4 years. For envisioning and evolving Titan into a complete lifestyle company, ET presents Mr. C.K. Venkataraman with the Business Leader of the Year award.
Ladies and gentlemen, Titan MD C.K. Venkataraman is ET Business Leader of the Year. Congratulations.
When I opened the Economic Times on the 19th of December to read about the award, I was quite... I almost fell off the chair when I saw my photograph next to Dr. Jaishankar's. Never in the wildest imagination of mine did I see that possibility in my life. It was like a lifetime award for me. Forgive me, Ms. Naik. And the incredulity actually grew, and particularly in the last 1 week, when not just one respected central minister, but 2 respected central ministers I had for company, of course, along with other accomplished leaders in the ads that the Times Group steadily built up. In fact, over the last 1 week, I became so famous in my family and friend circles, all over India. Thank you very much, Economic Times, esteemed jury, for recognizing me here. I'm sure all the other contenders were equally deserving, and just that a chance came my way. In true Tata tradition, Titan Company is not just a business enterprise, but it has a very large heart and an equally large conscience. We refer to ourselves more often as a family and less perhaps as a company. There are 70,000 plus Titanians who are actually members of this family and who have together over the last 4 decades created an example of what India can truly do on the global stage. So this award actually belongs to all of you Titanians out there all over the world. I would also like to thank the board of directors of Titan Company for encouraging me, supporting me, and challenging me, particularly in the last 4 years, a very, very complex time during our lives. Thank you once again, E.T., and thank you, jury.
Thank you, sir. The next award takes us global. It is, after all, ET's Global Indian of the Year award. All the way from the City of Lights, across the channel, or shall I say Chanel.
A Global Indian of the Year is a person of many firsts. At Unilever, she was the first woman to lead global human resources. Today, Leena Nair is the first Indian to lead a global luxury brand. She started her career at Unilever in 1992 and rose to executive director at HUL before moving to the British conglomerate's headquarters in London as chief HR officer. Leena Nair became the global CEO of the iconic luxury brand Chanel in January 2022. Under her leadership, Chanel has strengthened its sustainability, innovation and philanthropy commitments and has grown brand desirability. With Leena at the helm, the company's sales grew by 17% in 2022. ET recognizes Leena Nair's business impact, representing Indian leadership in the world of global luxury, and honors her with the Global Indian of the Year award.
It gives me great pleasure, sheer luxury actually, to announce the 2023 ET Global Indian of the Year. Ma'am, please come on stage, sorry. Global CEO Chanel, Leena Nair. A few words, s'il vous plaît.
Honorable Minister Jaishankar ji, Mr. Jain, and esteemed guests. It is a real honor to win this prestigious award, and I actually walked before you announced, Ananya, so you can see I'm so happy to receive it. I'm a true made in India product. I grew up in Kolhapur, studied in Sangli, worked all over India from Etah to Taloja to Kidarpur to places you may not have even heard of. And I really believe my 20-year professional career in India has shaped my mindset and outlook to everything I do today. And I feel very, very proud to see India on the world stage commanding such respect. You know, a moment like that, a moment like this, you know, you do feel overwhelmed with gratitude. And I want to start by first thanking my husband, Kumar, who along with our sons, Aryan and Siddhant, are the three men in my life, not the men in black, but the three men in my life who make everything possible for me. I also want to thank my parents who always believed in me, my in-laws and my wider family who are my constant cheerleaders, biggest fans, sometimes embarrassingly so. And you know, I want to thank mentors, coaches, many of them I see in this room because we are products of what came before us. So colleagues from Unilever, colleagues from Chanel, I'm really grateful for the time, wisdom, kindness you've invested in my growth. Most importantly, I want to thank the 37,000 people working at Chanel. Your passion and your amazing contribution is what makes Chanel one of the most iconic brands in the world. And this award is dedicated to each and every one of you. Our founder, Gabriel Chanel, 100 years ago, created designs, creating trousers, crossbody bags so that women could ride horses, anticipated the needs of the modern woman, and created clothes for an independent and active lifestyle. This was not just about creating clothes, it was about the freedom of becoming, supporting women to be and become whoever they wanted to be. Because clothes are not just about self-expression, it's about empowering you to be whoever you want to be. And today, we at Chanel want to continue to be a beacon of inspiration for the next 100 years. We endeavor to have a positive impact in the world. We want to preserve human creation, human craftsmanship, human skills, This dress has taken 250 hours of man-made love and craftsmanship to make. And we want to be part of what's next. Java etrodea Sakiva Arrive. We want to be part of what's next. And I feel privileged to lead a company that's inspiring to the next generation of creatives, talent, artists, clients. You know, when I was cycling through the lanes of Kolhapur at 10 years old, I can tell you, I didn't imagine anything like this. And I feel a sense of joy and a sense of disbelief at receiving this award. Throughout my career, I've been the first in every role I've done. The first woman, the first Asian, the first Indian, the first person of color to lead a global luxury brand. And it needs a lot of courage, a lot of determination, and very big dreams to do that. But it also is possible because of many, many, many people who supported me on this journey. And today I want to say to all the winners of today and many years, that let us lift as we climb and make it easier and encourage others to follow in our footsteps. Let's make it easier for everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Nair. Thank you. He has been called many things: outspoken, dynamic, bullish. I'd like to call him truly iconic. One of the industry's most dependable pair of shoulders on which India Inc. stands today. This year's ET Lifetime Achievement Award could not have gone to a more deserving leader than the engineer-architect of one of India's most solid, robust, and muscular companies.
Our Lifetime Achievement Award winner is often referred to as a maverick, a perfectionist, or a workaholic. He started his nearly 6-decade-long career in L&T in 1965 and worked his way up the ranks and became chairman in 2003. In the 2 decades of his leadership, the company achieved a remarkable 36-fold revenue growth and 17-fold stock rise. A.M. Nayak has taken L&T to heights which would have been impossible without his passion and commitment to be the builder to the nation. He has overseen monumental projects like the Mumbai Trans-Harbour Link, Statue of Unity, India's first nuclear submarine Arihant, and other international projects. Mr. Nayak fended off 2 aggressive takeover attempts and kept the company independent and professionally run. Under his tutelage, L&T has emerged as a colossus in heavy engineering, EPC, hydrocarbons, defense and financial tech services. For his contributions to L&T and the nation, A.M. Nayak was awarded the Padma Vibhushan in 2019. For building L&T into a priceless asset for the nation, which ultimately made his name synonymous with L&T. ET is proud to confer the Lifetime Achievement Award to A.M. Nayak.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2023 ET Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Chairman Emeritus Larsen & Toubro, Anil Manibhai Nayak. Few words, sir.
Hello. Good evening to all of you. First of all, let me thank E.T., the jury, for such a, according to me, most sought after recognition. I have had maybe 85 or 90 such recognition, but the one which I always look forward to was this one. So it's a great pleasure for me. Let me tell you a little story of my life. Although there is a book written about, some time ago, which was titled Nationalist, and that tells a lot of it. But in short, I come from a small village, 2,500 people. Spent my 10-year onwards, the whole life, studied in vernacular, did not know much to speak in English. My grandfather, 120 years ago, was a gold medalist then in Gaikwad state and became the principal of Gurukul way of education. Later on, it became a primary school to which he was the first principal. My father was in Mumbai when 99% of the people want to come to Mumbai. He is 1% of those under the Adesh of Gandhiji's that India lives in village. He went back to village and obviously all of us went back with him. I was 10-year-old. Since then I grew up and came back to Bombay looking for a job, like a lot was said about the villages, the rural population moving to urban. And how are we going to cope with it was one of the issues in the panel. But coming back, if I look back, my grandfather always was going to Adivasi colony. Whenever he got time, he used to take me with him. I used to see in those days, 1 anna, he bought 100 peppermints and were only distributing to all Adivasi colonies. And they used to come bursting, calling his name, Bapa has come, Bapa has come. I've seen that. My father went back to village, spent 38 years educating, I would say maybe a few 100,000 people in 4 different schools over 38 years. I call him the great principal. Today the principal do not take classes or very few. He used to take 38 classes, look after the administration of the school and work very, very, very committedly. I've seen that also. All of this percolates over hereditary in forming your character. So when I came to Bombay, honesty was given, high integrity was given over the generation of our family. So all my life I want to assure you, I have never given a penny to anyone. And lots of media person used to ask me, how do you carry on your business when you are not in the game of how to get business? I said, I am in the game of making business come to me. And that is, do things which others easily cannot do. Continuously advance in complexity, technology, and so on, such that most complex jobs of India, as you know, are all done by Larsen & Toubro. In January itself, the Prime Minister inaugurated 4 of the very complex projects of Larsen & Toubro. So it is, sorry I'm telling you this, but there are lots of consumer companies, there are lots of steel companies, there are lots of power companies. Why there is only one company which is engineering conglomerate? If you can show me second, I'll be very happy to know. And I want 5 more L&Ts to make India to grow at 8.5% per annum to get to that 10 trillion hallmark. But it's a most hard work. We have 600 sites. Some of them are in Himalayas, some of them are in desert. I mean, God-forsaken places. The family is left in some town and the husband goes away for 6 months, 1 year, come back. It's a very, very difficult work. This is only construction. Many people say L&T is an infrastructure company. No. L&T is the rarest of rare, highly technologically advanced and most complex project builder of the country. There are not many like this in the world, I can tell you. We are number 1 in the engineering, heavy engineering in the world. We are the highest private sector defense contractor of India. Obviously, we are number 1 infrastructure builder, but we are also the largest hydrocarbon project builder of India. I can keep telling stories, and then of late we have gone into IT and we have become the 5th largest by market cap, and little tidbits here and there I have got rid of. So when I look at last 25 years, I would give you some statistical number in half a minute. Our market cap was 4,000 crore. Today the group market cap is 5,82,000 crore. Only, which is about 155 or so times. The sales, the revenue was 5,000 crore. Today, this year, it will be 2,10,000 crore. And any and every parameters, I think we have tried to excel. We have been respected par excellence because we don't indulge in any practices not conformity to high integrity. And the reason we are respected and people trust us. I mean, I don't think there are many companies. I'm sure there are many, but we are one of those who is the most trusted company of India. We are one of the only one which has been the complexity of the kind of activities I said in which no one wants to enter. Most of the top industrialists are our customers. They want to run power plant, but they don't want to build power plant. They want to run refineries, but they don't want to build refineries. All of that is highly, highly complex. Coming back, in 2000, our international operation was 0. Today it is 45% of the whole company. It was our vision that we had collectively created in the company that we will be Indian multinational. Believe me, in our field, we are truly Indian multinational. That time, as I said today, in 2,10,000 crore, 85,000 is international, 85,000 crores. So I think I say with satisfaction that we have made some contribution to building this country. We are a nation builder. I had the good fortune of being a part of this with tens of thousands of our employees. My colleague said, our chairman, Mr. Subramaniam, in the panel, that we have 350,000 people. I would like to add and say that is the workers. We have IT, nearly 1 lakh people. We have within L&T. And therefore, we have more than 500,000 people. And averagely, even if you take 2 people per employee, we touch the life of 1 million people directly. Indirectly, maybe 1.5 million people. So, I think we need many more L&T if you want to build India of tomorrow. I also want to tell you, I sometimes wonder what kind of leader we want. Apart from committed to building the great companies, nationalist, one who is very passionate about what he does. Devotion, passion, conviction, and commitment is my mantra. And I think it is a very successful mantra which I have practiced over the decades. Of late, you know, I have become more and more in the background in the sense I don't run the company in an executive role. And I am now a chairman emeritus. But the good leaders do well in running their companies well and taking it to great heights. But the greater leaders are those who secure future for the company. And that is to create a great leader for the next 10, 15 years. I say without hesitation that our chairman, Mr. Subramaniam, will take the company sustainability to great heights. And that is, I take a little credit for it, that okay, I mean, he is going to do a great job, but I have not failed in my duties to secure the future of Larsen Toubro. Of late, I have been more and more involved in societal work. Because being whatever my age is, I can't keep quiet. I started from my village, I have gone back to my village. Everybody gets stock option, I also got stock option. I didn't take it. I put them all in 2 trusts, one for education and skill building, one for medical. We now run 5 hospitals, 6 schools. We have kind of adopted 40 schools and several other activities, and it continuously on expansion mode. It has more than 50,000 students who are graduating every year. And I want to tell you, in the 5 schools which is in rural Gujarat, are 85% backward class, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. Those the Prime Minister is committed to bring them up. We have an iconic school in Mumbai. It is known as the best school in that area, in Powai area. You won't believe. We will have 4,000 capacity, the largest and the best in that area. But I am not satisfied until it touches the poor people. So 20% of the 800, that means 800 to 850 students, will be free from the nearby slums, selected by us and trained, and that will change the life every year of 850 poor people. So I am now these days looking for what we can do to bring the downtrodden to move them up. Life has to be satisfying, has to be enjoyable. People used to ask me, you work 15 hours a day, you go in the 7, come back at 10, and so on. When do you rest? I said, when I work. Why? Because I enjoy it. Anything you do, even if it is high stress, as long as you enjoy, I think you are a very happy man. Today, I enjoy what I am doing. I've changed my way of working, the focus on working, but I enjoy it. Life is full circle for me. Started in a village, I go every 2 months to village, meet the poor people, and I want to tell you, I have not worn a suit. This I have come for this occasion, but I have not worn a suit for 8 years. People wonder why. It's not necessary. And if I wear a suit, it is intimidating to poor people. They don't approach me. But today in the whole South Gujarat, I go with a t-shirt and pant, and still people think that what I have done is a tip of the iceberg. I mean, the people may think great thing, but I think that's what India wants. We all can sit here in this hall, we all can be in our boardroom, but we got to be touching the soil, touching the grassroots to understand the reality of life. India has maybe 200 million people, for which there are advertisements, there are medias, everybody is running after it, the whole world. Maybe another 500 to 600 people are middle class. Another 400 million may be lower middle class. But there are another 300 to 400 million people who possibly get only one time food to eat. Possibly. Unless the government schemes which is now helping them to make two ends meet. How can we contribute sitting here? Sorry, I'm sitting here not as a corporate leader, but as an individual. 200 million people who live above the middle class level, if they can help one family, 200 million more people will come up and will get into the middle class to contribute to the economic growth of this country. I think I have talked too much, so let me end. None of this is possible and would have been possible for the great support I have got from my family. My wife was young. When I used to go away at 7 in the morning and come at 10 o'clock night, 7 days a week, and so on. No leave for 21 years. You can't believe it, but that is so. She stood by me. That's why I could do what I did, and that's why I have this award, without which what I did, I would not have got it. My father has been my role model. I want to thank my wife and the family in any case for all they have done with me, but this award is very special, and my father is a role model. It is one of the last awards I'll be getting at the stage that I am in my life. So I want to dedicate this award to my father, who is everything in my life, without which I would not have been here. So let me end by saying, life is what you make out to be. And enjoy what you do. When you rush to work, you know you are going to enjoy it. When you hesitate to come back, you know you are leaving your enjoyment. When you come halfway through the journey back to your home, you are again very enthused because you want to meet your wife and children and so on. That's life. Let's all live that way, enjoy that way, but also do what we can for the poorer section of the society. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that very heartfelt address. Thank you so much, sir. That was a very heartfelt address. I think all of us felt it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jayashankar and Mr. Jain, for your presence. I request you to please stay on stage just a little while longer. I'd like to call Cyrus back on stage to gift wrap this glorious evening. Thank you to all of you sitting here. Thank you to ET for having me. This has truly, truly been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ananya. And it has been a super fantastic 2023 ET Awards night. But before I bid you all, Veni, VC, Vidi, we came, venture capitalists, and we conquered. And all of you venture capitulate yourself now towards the bar. May I request all our wonderful winners to please gather here on stage for a wonderful group photograph. Thank you all so much for being such a wonderful and gracious audience. And once again, do not forget to tweet about tonight using the hashtag ET Awards. Once again, I'd like to thank our wonderful partner for tonight, Deloitte, and the lovely Ananya Birla. Cocktails and dinner is served at the ballroom. Good night. I'll see you next year. Until next time, Natu Natu, Brutus, enjoy yourselves, and thank you once again for being such a gracious audience. Good night.